celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Peace Corps with a reenactment at the University of Michigan on this episode of Travel Television. Insights on volunteering in the U.S. by author Sheryl Kayne. All this and more. So on to our first stop. Hi, this is Kevin Mayberry from Travel Television, and we'd like to welcome back Sheryl Kayne, the author of
Volunteer Vacations Across America.
Welcome back again.
Thanks so much. I love being here.
Thanks. Well, we love having you. And today we're going to talk about, as many Americans love, going to national parks, but we're going to take a little different angle today. We're going to talk about living and working.
Right. Volunteering, living and working. You know, it's so great to go to a national park, but it's such a different experience to actually live there, to wake up in the morning, to be surrounded by it, to go to sleep at night, and you really just walk and enjoy everywhere that you are. I want people to know that there are 29 opportunities in this country. There are 29 national parks that have VIP programs. They're called volunteer in parks, but they have programs for artists in residence. So people who are into the arts, all kinds of different arts, sculpting, music, painting. I applied for a few of these residencies. I really wanted to live in a park, so I found the ones that I could apply to as a writer. So I was accepted as the writer in residence in the Everglades National Park. And the goal of the program is to have people in the arts immersed in the park so that then it's reflected in your art. So it's really an amazing opportunity that people can find out about just by online, volunteers in national parks. Also, there are all kinds of jobs you can apply for. I met a couple in Denali National Park when I was there working as an oral interpreter for the summer. They go to a different park every summer and they apply only to the bookstores, because they love bookstores, and this way it gets them inside the park. They take their RV and they plug in, which is almost always a trade, where you get housing as a trade, and they make $10 an hour there, so they're not volunteering all their time, but they are actually working there. Other people volunteer. I lived surrounded by volunteers in the Everglades, and it was really very exciting that there were people there who worked with plants, you know, taking out the invasive plants and planting the new plants. There were people there. In the Everglades, there's a terrible problem with pythons, right? Because some people let a few loose that they didn't want anymore, and now they are eating some of the animals, you know, and the birds. So it's really, really a danger. And I met a volunteer who was a fireman, and there he works in fire control and prevention. So it's just amazing. Have you ever been to the American Bear Association?
I haven't.
Wow.
No.
Up in Minnesota. That is so cool too, because they are surrounded by a park area that is just so exciting, and you see all the black bear, and you can also learn how to track bear and moose at the Teton National Park.
Really?
Yes. So there's so many exciting programs that you can volunteer for and learn about right in their own national parks, and really not just visit, but become involved, become a very necessary part. And you have to realize these big parks need thousands of people because you have so many volunteers, so many tourists coming in. Denali National Park, there were so many jobs. I was very fortunate that I found a position with a park, with a hotel there in the park, that needed someone to research, deliver, and write programs on women in the gold rush and conservation. So it was really very exciting.
Well, how can people find out more information about
this?
Right
online. Go right to your national parks, and there's a separate little link for volunteers in parks, VIPs. And there are positions all over the country, and then you click on the area of the country that you're interested in, and then the particular park. You can go to the national park in Hawaii. Go there in the winter. And I interviewed a couple who they volunteer in the Everglades in the winter, and in the summer he is a seasonal park ranger, and they go to Yellowstone And they do it every year, and they've done it since they retired. So there are all kinds of great positions, great opportunities right in our national parks to not just visit, but really get involved and really appreciate and get to know your national park. It's a great opportunity, and I hope more and more people will look into it as an option.
That would be great. I'd like to say one thing. What do people feel like coming out of an experience like that? What have they said to you after they've come out of an experience of working at a national park, being a part of it as opposed to just a visitor to it?
They say that they will never forget it because you're in a position not only to interact with people from all over the world, you develop a deeper appreciation for what we have right here. Because very often you have people coming from all over and you see it through their eyes. And then you develop this very strong sense of pride. I mean, we're very happy that people before us were smart enough to protect these lands because it's absolutely amazing what you can experience. And when you are staying in the park, chances are you can go out in the morning and you can see a bear on your front porch, or you can see an eagle flying overhead, and experiences that you just don't ordinarily get
when you're at home. And it gives you much more of a sense of belonging and actually, you know, a sense of wanting, rather than just being an observer, to having had something more dear to your heart as well.
And there are opportunities for you to do it with your entire family as well. And my book, The Volunteer Vacations Across America, is the first book of its kind that also has a family index.
Okay.
So there are special trips just for the kids and the family as well.
And they can find that on your website, www.immersiontraveler.com.
Absolutely. Amazon.com. All around. Immersion Travel USA and Volunteer Vacations Across America.
Got it. Got it. All right. Well, Sheryl, thanks for coming in again.
Thank you. My pleasure. Love it here. Happy trails.
Happy trails. For 2 decades, the National Resources Defense Council has performed a white glove test on over 3,000 beaches across the U.S., focusing on water quality and health standards. This year, the nonprofit group had an extra challenge to overcome, to determine the effect of the oil spill on the Gulf beaches. In the annual testing, The Waters, a guide to water quality at vacation beaches, the group expanded its focus to include the oil spill's footprint on Gulf beaches. They collected data from state websites, health officials, and other authorities. The Gulf beaches were closed or under advisory or notice for 2,239 days. This is 10 times more than during the same period last year. Of about 250 monitored beaches, 1 in 5 were affected, including beaches in Mississippi, Western Florida, Alabama, and Louisiana. The organization has compiled a database at nrdc.org/beaches with more information for the potential beachgoer.
March 1st is the 50th anniversary of the Peace Corps. Travel Television spoke with Peace Corps Director Aaron Williams about the anniversary, and then with John Bridgeland for his thoughts about the next 50 years.
I have today signed an executive order providing for the establishment of a Peace Corps on a temporary pilot basis. I'm also sending to Congress a message proposing authorization of a permanent Peace Corps. This Corps will be a pool of trained men and women sent overseas by the United States government or through private institutions and organizations to help foreign countries meet their urgent needs for skilled manpower. It is our hope to have between 500 to 1,000 people in the field by the end of this year. We will send Americans abroad who are qualified to do a job. We will send those abroad who are committed to the concept which motivates the Peace Corps. It will not be easy. None of the men and women will be paid a salary. They will live at the same level as the citizens of the country which they're sent to, doing the same work, eating the same food, speaking the same language. We're going to put particular emphasis on those men and women who have skills in teaching, agriculture, and in health. I'm hopeful that it will be a source of satisfaction to Americans and a contribution to world peace.
Kennedy hadn't planned on a Peace Corps when students picked up on remarks he made during a campaign stop.
How many of you who are going to be doctors are willing to spend your days in Ghana? How many of you are willing
His words lit the imagination of Michigan
to spend your
students.
lives traveling around the world?
And to his surprise, he was presented with a petition signed by 800 students ready to volunteer. Overnight, a handful of students elicited a campaign pledge
I propose a Peace Corps.
and inspired a new strategy in the Cold War.
After centuries of colonial rule, the Cameroon celebrates its achievement of sovereignty.
As new nations freed themselves from colonial rule, the United States and the Soviet Union competed for their loyalty. Kennedy thought the Peace Corps could help in a global fight against hunger and disease and enhance America's standing among developing nations.
In a larger sense, the United States and the Soviet Union want to be aligned with these smaller countries in these other areas of the world. So it's partly about winning hearts and minds in the Cold War, but it really was also about unleashing this sort of youthful idealism and believing that American know-how could actually solve these problems.
I think the Peace Corps is a wonderful opportunity for Americans to have a chance to engage globally. For young Americans, it gives them a chance to really be tested and to find out how you can make a difference at the grassroots level. I don't think there's anything more important than that. For more mature Americans who are at the end of their careers or are retired and who want to give back, the Peace Corps offers a wonderful opportunity to do that, because we can always use experienced Americans who have the technical savvy to go into another country and provide their expertise. And as a matter of fact, when I was in Ghana last week, I met an 80-year-old woman. I helped celebrate her birthday, and she is working on ecotourism in the cocoa industry in Ghana.
Sergeant Shriver, who was the first director of the Peace Corps, when he brought forth the actual plan for the Peace Corps, wanted it to be big and bold. The original vision for the Peace Corps was to have 100,000 Americans serving abroad every year. Today there are about 8,600. At the height of Shriver's, at the end of Shriver's term as director, there were about 15,000. So our vision is for an expanded Peace Corps, together with other programs like Volunteers for Prosperity and Global Service Fellows, to meet that ambitious goal of 100,000 Americans serving abroad, just like they do for 2 years today through the Peace Corps.
The future of the Peace Corps really rests with you. If you do well, then the Peace Corps will be developed, and more Americans will go abroad, and we'll find a greater and greater response to this idea of serving our country. Thank you.
Benefits for me are immeasurable. One can't put a value on that other than it was a life-influencing event to spend 3 years there, and knowing that I walked away with more than probably what I gave.
It helped show me you can do pretty much whatever you want to do. And it gave me an adaptability. I rarely sense that you can't do it. Now, you probably can't do it the way you planned on it, but you can get it done. And I think Peace Corps helped with that, because there were times when there wasn't much to work with, but you can figure out some way how to get it done.
A big one for me was the growth that I got from the experience. I mean, the sense of international awareness of the whole universe was not just New York or Florida or California or the United States. I mean, that there really was an entire world, other cultures. I mean, I knew all these things from the book, but having lived them and experienced and been immersed into another culture and living there, that is definitely right at the very top. For me, the outlook it gave me, the different perspective.
When I was saying goodbye and leaving, saying goodbye to the drivers and workers and the assistants, one of the guys said to me, he says, "You're you're a good man." And that's the most I could ever ask for out of the Peace Corps experience. Yeah, I could build bridges, I could build roads and stuff like that. But to make an impression like that, I'm very proud of.
That looking back from this stage in my life, I'm 65 now, that was a treasured time, and I don't think we realized how treasured it was until we look back and realize the time that we had on our hands to just to be.
To me, it's just such an incredible time. In fact, I mean, now I'm 60-something, skip that part, but I look back and I actually almost blow off my childhood. I almost take life starts with the Peace Corps. I mean, the stuff before that, it was there and it's just the usual stuff. But really, there's no meaning. There's no real specifics one thinks about. And the Peace Corps was just such an incredible experience that's where I really start keeping track of life.
In the long term, no doubt about it, the most dynamic and the most mind-broadening and enjoyable experience I ever had in my life was the Peace Corps. There have been other things that have been enjoyable, other things that have given me a great deal of pleasure. There's no doubt that dynamically, as far as growth is concerned, that was without a doubt the best part of my life.
There's a sense of camaraderie and closeness that basically has left for 35 or 40 years that I didn't realize was with that group. And I didn't realize it would be quite this emotional. Yeah. It had a pretty big impact on my life.
Travel Television interviews Jane Hess Collins and Debbie Wango, the co-producers and hosts of the nonprofit network Get Out and Give Back.
So really you just started with your own causes and really, things that you felt were, that you wanted to bring as a story, and it just kind of developed from there, right?
Yeah, and I think we also tried to come up with shows that would have appeal for different parts of the population. So we would have charities that were involved with sports and volunteering, and we did a show about that. So, if that was your passion, you could get involved with an organization that used sports to provide a service to people. And as Jane said, we did that with animals. We did a show on organizations that help the elderly. And senior citizens.
Get Out and Give Back really believes that everybody, if they find their way to contribute that's most authentic to them, they're going to want to do it. So some people want to contribute by being on a board. Some people want to contribute by working. Some people want to contribute by donating money, as well as the different kinds of way of giving back there are. So that's why we brought in, corporate people and corporate sponsors and executive directors and the people that receive the services and the volunteers and everybody in between.
What were your accomplishments, your sense of accomplishments, and what were the obstacles in terms of, everything from, starting the show, continuing the show, finding the stories, etc.?
Do you want to do obstacles or the good stuff?
I don't care. Well, I think we're the perfect example of people that had a passion, and we got out and we wanted to give back by this vision that we had, and coincidentally met the same day to do this. So I think, we both were aware enough to know that we wanted to use the TV and this vehicle of the media to make a difference. And then we just had to go out and find some money to help us use the studios and put the effort into finding organizations and volunteers. So like anything else, if you want to do something and you put energy into it and make it happen, you can, and you can make a difference. And so our story was the same as what we were, wanting to inspire other people or open them up to doing. But that was our long-term vision, that we would just inspire the entire world to get out and give back and make a difference. And in fact, Jane, though, to her credit, is still walking that path to writing about getting out and giving back and using other media outlets, so she's still involved in the dream.
Relief Spark is a grassroots organization comprised of volunteers who provide first response disaster relief services. The members help communities respond and rebuild during and after natural disasters. Sidney Ray founded this group just after Hurricane Katrina using the very popular internet message board Craigslist to collect $3 million worth of donations from Southern California. Relief Spark has volunteers of all ages to work on both short and long-term projects. One project is the rebuilding of trails within New Orleans City Park. Travel Television spoke to some of the volunteers working on this project.
My name is Matty Herpa. I'm from Stanford, California, and I'm here because I volunteered last year, enjoyed the experience, decided to come back again.
Hi, my name is Arndel LeBlanc. I'm from Montreal, Canada, and I came down because I thought that the United States needed a little bit of help and that Canada was here to help you guys out. Loving the experience, hanging out with good guys like Maddie. It's a great time. We've met a lot of different organizations since we've been around here. The simplest things can be done here, such things like Operation Greenlight New Orleans, which are just changing light bulbs to energy efficient light bulbs in houses. So just that is saving people so much money on the energy bill. Maybe talk about Arno.
Well, I mean, I have a different approach. I mean, it is great. Like, there's a lot of use for unskilled labor in case people want to volunteer and come down. But I also feel like certain things, the scope is beyond, nonprofits. I feel like the government needs to get involved. So maybe you should contact your representative in government, in Congress, and have them, speak up on this issue.
To see volunteer stories, go to www.projectkatrinavolunteers.net.
While we celebrate the 50th anniversary of the founding of the Peace Corps and the engagement of a generation encouraged by President John F. Kennedy to volunteer, Travel Television also remembers a man who was vital to the establishment of the Peace Corps and the sustaining spirit of service. Sergeant Shriver founded the Peace Corps and worked with President Lyndon Johnson to fight poverty with programs like VISTA. He also worked tirelessly on the Special Olympics, an organization founded by his late wife, Eunice Kennedy Shriver. Travel Television spoke with John Bridgeland about the work and the legacy of the Kennedy family.
Shriver launched a string of social inventions that shaped an era and allowed a generation to live out its ideals.
Peace Corps, VISTA, legal services to the poor, Head Start.
He's probably had an effect on more Americans and more people across the world than anyone who hasn't been a president or a world leader, and probably even more than some of them.
For Shriver, the Peace Corps, the war on poverty, and America were acts of the imagination. They were ways that we should see and therefore be in the world.
From the summit of privilege and power, he dared America's youth to work among the poorest people in the world and live out their country's most revolutionary ideals.
Letting their actions speak for their hearts and for their minds and for this country.
There was the sense of something new was emerging, and that whatever it was, the Peace Corps was in the vanguard.
The Peace Corps became the symbol of American idealism abroad.
Sergeant Shriver has appropriately been called by the President of the United States one of the brightest lights of the greatest generation. And more than any other American I can think of in his time, he touched millions of people around the world. Not only the 200,000 Peace Corps volunteers over the last 50 years, who in turn touched millions of people around the world around meeting urgent needs and showing the good works and compassion of Americans, but 22 million young people who through Head Start had access to health care and nutrition and education to get a good start in life. More than 2 million Americans through Job Corps who, some of whom have dropped out of high school, who are re-engaged in their education and productive work, through Volunteers in Service to America, and with his wife Eunice, the Special Olympics, with 3 million athletes in 150 countries, literally has probably had a more profound impact on our country and our world than anyone I can think of. And he truly was larger than life. And what I loved about Sergeant Shriver, who I got to know, was that he wanted each one of us to be larger than life and truly believed that through our service we could be larger in life and make a profound impact on the world.
There was a sense of almost infinite possibilities, that the world was so full of need and the response in this country was so great. Whatever the new frontier was, the Peace Corps defined it. The Peace Corps was really giving the new frontier of John F. Kennedy a particular mission.
Shriver had an intuitive sense that ordinary young Americans, the people who came into the Peace Corps, were capable of doing great things. Whereas a lot of people don't think of young people in that sense. I mean, they want to put young people in very, internships and very circumscribed roles. We were, for all practical purposes, like in the diplomatic service.
In the last few months, more applications for the Peace Corps have come to us than have come for positions in all the rest of the United States government put together.
In the 50s, the key word was always conformity. All kinds of bestsellers came out and said, we're becoming a conformist society. There's no more independence. There's no more personal autonomy. There's no more sort of entrepreneurial can-do spirit. And the Kennedys and Shriver clearly picked up on that theme. And they said, no, here it is. We will galvanize and mobilize this kind of nascent or dormant spirit of idealism that's out there and just needs a leader, a cause, a movement.
And of all of our ideals, none surpasses the importance of service. To convert our good words into good deeds. Our greatness depends upon it, not only practicing it here at home, but in the world at large.